Hello, welcome to the Sicilian kayak fishing video. The weather's bad outside again, so I thought I'd talk today a little bit about sounders. Which sounder is best for you? Which sounder do you use on the kayak? Which sounder do you want on the kayak? And why ultimately I bought this one and not this one for my kayak. I get a lot of questions. What are you looking at on your phone? Why are you always on your phone? What's going on? And the reason is I'm looking at my sounder. I'm looking at the Deeper Pro app, which is called Fish Deeper, and it's showing me the signal off the seabed. So what is a fish finder? Let's talk about that first. Well, a fish finder, or sounder as they're sometimes known, is a device that sends a signal to the seabed and back up again, and it bounces off. It's a sonar signal, just like a submarine would use, just like a ship would use, just like dolphins use. It's just contained in a much smaller device. And it shows us the nature, the topography of the seabed. I believe it's called bathymetry when you're looking at it on the seabed. It shows us what's going on the seabed. It shows us where the rocks are, where the structure is, where the kelp is, where the sandy flat bottoms are. And that way we can use that to inform our fish finding and fish location. Some sounders, you get the Garmin Live Scope. If you watch the Fish Locker, you'll have seen the Garmin Live Scope. If you watch Rocket, I'm a big fan of Rocket, on YouTube, he uses a Lowrance hook that's got a side scan. So he can see just a little bit more about what's going on the seabed. That's a sounder. Let's talk about the two different types I have here and which one is going to be most suitable for you on your kayak. So first of all, let's start with the Deeper Pro. This is a tag-along, and this is the same as any other tag-along system that you would attach to your kayak. I use a big carabiner. You can get a transducer mount, but it was quite expensive and I didn't know where I was going to mount it when I first bought it. So instead I just put it on a tag along. This has caused some issues. We'll come back to that later. And basically what it is it's a device self-contained with a waterproof O-ring that probably needs replaced soon. And it's got a charging port. The battery, all of the electronics are secured in this one device. It's got a little waterproof seal, as I said, seals up with a big O-ring, and it lasts about 2 hours out in the water. I get about 2 hours out of it, and it uses two little transducer ports at the bottom here, two little sensors to send and receive signals from the seabed, and it broadcasts that information to an app on your phone. The other device that I've got here is I've got a Garmin Striker Vivid 7 CV, if you really want to know what the model of this is. Just a Garmin Striker, 7-inch screen. I like this. I think this is a really good setup. I like the Garmin. I haven't tried any others, but this is the one that we bought for the boat. This is the boat model. You could put this on your kayak. This is just the one from our boat. It's got a power port and the transducer port at the back here. They plug in, and you have to run those cables. The transducer would then be mounted on the underside of your hull. I use a Galaxy Sturgeon, which has a transducer port that you can feed all the cables into the hatch, and it also mounts underneath. And if you've watched any of Rocket's videos or any other kayak fishermen, you might have seen videos about how they set up their transducers and their sounders. This needs some sort of lead or lithium battery to run off, and you need to charge that and mount it into the kayak somewhere, which will add a bit of weight. They're the two kind of main styles. Obviously, you could buy a Lowrance, you could buy a Hummingbird. There's so many different types of this, but I'm going to call, this is the Garmin kind of mountable attached, and this is the sort of tag along. And we're going to talk about those as two different sounders today. So firstly, some advantages. Let's talk about the advantages of the Garmin first. We've been using this for a year on the boat, 2 years on the boat, and I think this shows the fish really clearly. If you go over a school of fish, you see it on this. It's really obvious where the fish are. It's got a GPS built into it, so we've got routes and marked tracks to avoid the low rock formations. We've got it wrong once or twice, but to avoid sort of the low standing rocks, we've got them all marked out on the sounder. It saves the maps, and it's really clear. You can go into the app and you can have a look at where you've been. You can have a look at the depth. that's sort of the advantages of this one. I think this shows fish really clearly. I think this shows schools of fish really clearly. And I think you can see the bottom fairly acceptably. The advantage of the deeper is it's self-contained. It's a single unit. It connects to your phone as a screen. Is that an advantage? I don't necessarily know. It's a lot lighter. This is this weighs, the whole setup here, including this big heavy carabiner, is probably about 50 grams lighter than just this box unit. And obviously with this box unit, we still need to have a battery. We still need to have all the cabling. Whereas this is self-contained. It's standalone. It's by itself. It does the job. I've put this back together wrong, so don't necessarily look at this. Let me just, for YouTube's sake, I'll just put it back together the way it's supposed to go. I just have it reversed. It doesn't matter, but because I still need to charge it before I next use it, but just since I'm showing it on the camera. Yeah, the advantages of this, lighter, it's cheaper, we're talking like £200-300 cheaper than buying a Garmin unit or sort of one of those sort of units. And it shows us the fish, it shows us the bottom. Probably the advantages of, or the positives from this unit. Cheaper than the Garmin, and doesn't need the sort of additional cabling and batteries. So what are the disadvantages then? Well, I think the disadvantages of the Garmin, very much for me, and this is personal, is I didn't want to drill holes in my kayak. I just, when I first got my kayak, I was like, I didn't have a lot of money when I first got my kayak. I worked quite a lot of extra shifts to save up the money to get the kayak, and I thought, well, I could work a couple more shifts and spend £300 getting a Garmin set up. Maybe I'd probably go for the Striker 4. It's got its own self-contained bag as well. That was kind of tempting, but I wasn't sure where I'd put it on the kayak. So I thought maybe Garmin 4, but I've still got to run cables through the kayak, which involves drilling holes in my kayak. And I'm quite paranoid about drilling holes in a kayak. That's, to me, something that doesn't sound like a good idea. So wasn't sure about that when I bought this one. That's one of the reasons why I bought this one. Wasn't sure about that, which is why I didn't necessarily buy the Garmin. Having used the Garmin, however, the only disadvantage I would say is that as you're going over and retracking over an area at different tides, it resaves the bathymetry. So let's say somewhere like at the back of Dunbar, where we were catching those coalfish in the last video, there's a big sort of plateau that comes out there, and on a normal tide, it's visible, or there's normally swell breaking, so you know where it is. On a super high tide, like a big spring, it's covered with water, but only a little. And that's really important because we were out a few years ago in the boat, and this was showing that we could safely cross over that stretch, because obviously one of my colleagues had driven over it before. And as we got closer and closer, it's a totally flat cam day. We were going over it, and all of a sudden you could see the bottom. All of a sudden we'd hit the top of this rock. Now, it was fine, it was deep enough, but it was pretty shallow. This was alarming. Everyone was getting very stressed. I may have some clips of that. If I do, I'll chuck them in, just because the bottom was so close that we were potentially going to run aground. I didn't realise this pinnacle came out so far.
No, neither did I. I did not realise it was fucking... Alright, we're good.
Okay, so we need to remember that. That's a danger spot.
Fucking is a danger spot, man.
You're right.
Yeah, 2 meters. No, we were at 0.9 at one point. We were at
0.7 at one point. Yeah, fucker.
That was spicy.
Those pots are misleaders.
Because I was looking down and I was like, oh, that's fucking kelp.
A little gander, I just thought these fucking poles are going to go under through that lens. I didn't hear what they were right.
No, that wasn't us. They weren't talking to us.
Fucking hell. Right, new spot.
Yeah, let's just keep going.
Yeah, ow.
Do you know, I almost said to you, I think you need to go a bit wider here. But then I saw that and I thought that was fine.
Yeah, I thought it was fine as well.
We'll need to put a marker on that.
Yeah, that's not fine. I mean, it Oh, okay.
So be careful, like, see that up ahead, but you see the red on it, can't you? So isn't that
Which one here? Yeah, that one's not good
so
either.
that's the same as well. That's where the
We'll go that way.
That's near where that pot is in front of you.
Fucking hell.
It's okay, we didn't catch anything.
I know, but we were like, I was literally
As
looking.
this boat goes about, it maps it, doesn't it?
Yeah. I was looking down.
So where's that? That's not even that.
That's right near that pot. Just in
There's not a safety point here, though, is there?
Nah.
No.
I mean, this is like low tide. We're like bang on low tide.
Spring low, yeah.
So, fuck. I mean, I think it's a great spot to fish around here.
Oh, what was that? That's just the wave.
Yeah, I think
That
it's
felt
just the
really
way.
weird.
It did feel like a pot. See, that's...
It still shows the structure. I think it shows fish really clearly, as I've said. So a good device. And the negatives for me, going over the drilling holes in the kayak. And the other thing for me, and I only realize this now, it's not the reason why I didn't buy it initially, is that one of these devices, for it to be big enough for me to see at a distance where it's not going to impact my paddling, I need to have this quite far away, which means I need quite a big screen, which obviously increases the cost. And the risk of it breaking. Water getting in here, water ingress is a real other worry. You know, splashing waves and getting water ingressed in here. The disadvantages of this is the app was buggy for a while, and there were a series of videos I put up maybe 2 years ago, maybe a year ago, where this wasn't working properly. It wouldn't connect to my phone. I did some troubleshooting on it, and I think it was to do with having Bluetooth on while I was trying to connect to the Wi-Fi. It's a Wi-Fi signal this sends. And because of the tag along, sometimes if I'm paddling a lot, it gets quite far away. It sort of sits behind me. Now I keep my phone in my left pocket, just where I keep it. I often have the sounder out on the right-hand side. Now there's no real reason for that other than it's where it sits nicely out of the way. And there's no other reason for that at all. If I put it on the left-hand side or the right-hand side, my body blocks the Wi-Fi signal. So if it's trailing out behind me, if it's quite far away, then the Wi-Fi blocks the signal. Sometimes it can lose connection, which is just a bit of a faff to get back on. Recently, I've not had so many problems with that or so many problems with the app not working. I don't think it shows schools of fish as well. You know, the little fish, the bait fish, the sand eels. I don't think this shows them as clearly. They do sometimes pop up and sometimes it's obvious where they are, but I find that this isn't so good. Once you get to 15, 20 centimeter coalies, these show up really well. And there have been times where I've used this and I've seen a single mark, drop down, and I've caught a decent sized cod. So definitely shows fish, but really clearly shows the bottom. And actually, I think this shows the bottom more clearly than the Garmin. It's probably due to the way I have it set up. I've got this on a much narrower beam, whereas this is on a much wider beam. So a good device. This cost me £100-ish. I think they're 120, £130 at the moment. I could have got the price wrong. I haven't actually looked. So it's a bit cheaper than buying the whole unit. Remember, the Garmin itself might be cheap, but then you've got to buy the battery, you've got to fit it all, whereas this is just a self-contained tag-along. And if you get this in a sale, as I did, probably pretty good buy. I've had this for 4 years now, going into our 5th year of this, so by the end of this time next year, it'll be 5 years since I bought this, and I haven't had a problem with it. The battery's still running, it's still working, I get out my kayak fairly regularly. How long will it last? Probably only another year. It is beginning to show signs of wear. The O-ring, I'm not convinced is going to last another year. Might do, but it's beginning to get a bit sketchy. There was just a little bit of dampness inside here the other day, and I think as soon as you start getting damp inside the casing, that's getting towards the end of its lifespan. But that's 4 years I've had this. And I think that's about it. I think that's about my negatives for this. So negatives, definitely doesn't show small fish as well, doesn't show fish as well. Shows the bottom really clearly, doesn't show fish as well. You can save marks on the app, but then you've got to make sure you're connected to mobile data when you reload the app to make sure that your marks load in, and I've definitely had some problems with that. So the GPS side of it doesn't work as well, it relies on your phone, and you only get about 2 hours with this because you've got to take into account your phone life and the sounder life. So which one would I buy next time? I said this has probably got a year left in it. I'm probably going to be buying a new kayak in the next year or so. What am I going to buy? And I think ultimately I'm going to end up buying some sort of self-contained unit and potentially 3D printing. I don't have a 3D printer, but my friend does. Some sort of case at the back here that I can use some sealant on to make a waterproof housing for the back to try and stop water ingress at these points. I'm quite worried about buying one of these and having water ingress damaging these contacts. Why would I not buy one of these again? There's no reason other than I'm more confident drilling the kayak, and I'll probably save up the money to get this. Obviously, I have no job at the moment. I'm currently unemployed, so at least for the next sort of 3 or 4 weeks, it's going to be a while till I buy one of these. It'll be next year, definitely. Would I get another deeper? Yes, but as I'm taking longer kayaking trips, the battery length on this is going to cause me a problem. I'm not so worried about the actual sounder device itself, it's the battery length and being able to still use my phone, because I use my phone as a safety device. It's another redundancy. Obviously, I carry a radio. Got a PLB coming in the next couple of months, so probably get, between a radio and a PLB, I'm going to be safe. But there's something about making sure that my phone is still operational that I quite like. So I think, running out my phone battery, running out the battery on this, whereas this is a standalone unit. Would I recommend this for a beginner, for someone new to kayak fishing who's only going to go out for an hour and a half, a couple of hours? Yes, absolutely. But if you're going out for longer trips, I think it needs to be some sort of housed unit like this. Yeah, I'm probably going to end up, I maybe get another Garmin. I mean, I really like the Garmin. We use it on the boat. I've had no issues with it. Why would I change? There's no real reason. It'll come down to sort of cost. If I don't get a Garmin, I'll probably get a Lowrance hook. I'm not going to buy a Hummingbird or the other really expensive one that I can't. Is it called Hummingbird? I'm sure it's called Hummingbird. I'm not going to buy one of those really expensive ones. I'm going to stick with something a bit smaller. So that's it for me. Will I buy a Garmin in the future? Yes, probably buy another one of these units. Got to work out where to mount it so it's not in the way of my paddling. However, for a beginner, for someone new into kayaking, I would definitely recommend a deeper. I have not had, the issues I've had with this have not been worth not buying it. I probably won't get another one in the future because I'm more confident drilling holes in my kayak. I'm more confident with the setup of it. I'm more confident with having the weight in the boat. But as a beginner, this has done the job. I've used it for 4 years. I've caught some fairly decent fish off the kayak. I really like it. So that's me. Yeah. Well, thank you for watching this video. We've come to the end. I really hope you've enjoyed that. I hope that's given you an idea of what you might buy in the future. If you have enjoyed this video, I'm thinking about doing more of these styles of videos, talking about lures, talking about my reels, just to kind of try and keep the channel ticking along when the weather's not good. If you have enjoyed this video, please comment below, give it a like and subscribe, and thank you very much for watching. Take care.